I feel today? Ask yourself this question.
What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's go! We ready! We ready! We ready! We ready! And let's go to the house! And let's go to the house!
When I step on the field, I send one message. And this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like.
Football is getting hit. That's it.
It's gonna be football now. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Let's hunt now. Let's hunt now. Let's go. Let's hunt. We ready? And let's go to the house. And let's go to the house.
We're talking about the Jets like we're talking about the Saints. You know, all this, how like we the Miami Heat of football. Yeah. The bottom line is you got to buckle up your chin strap.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect the game like that. There's too much crying from them.
He's a man. They can be hit just like us. He's a man.
You already make the big money.
He's a man.
Don't cry when you step on the field, man. That's war out there.
When I step on the field, I send one message. And this is what it feels like.
Oh, my bad. Your bad don't work in my world.
What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! We ready? And let's go to the house! And let's go to the house! It's a wrap. Game over. No, this game is not over. In fact, it's just getting started. I am actually not in the studio. I got a green screen behind me. I'm out at Texans training camp at the media room, and we're just broadcasting a quick, fast break show live from training camp. It's day 4 of training camp, and I got to tell you, the Houston Texans under Lovie Smith look a lot more organized, look a lot more sharp, look a lot more, in preparation mode to try and do something this season. And that's not a slight at last season's head coach, David Culley. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I think David Culley should have gotten another year to work with this team. But I will say that there is a difference that I've seen at training camp, different from David Culley, different from Bill O'Brien, and definitely different from Gary Kubiak. And I've been covering the team that long. So let me just say this. Lovie Smith knows how to run a team, knows how to run a camp, knows how to run a practice, the drills, the way that they go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. You can figure it out. You can see what they're up to and what they're working on. I will tell you, out at training camp today on Talk Your Team Tuesday, Davis Mills, second-year quarterback out of Stanford, truly going to be the start of the team this year. The good about Davis Mills, he looks a lot more sure of himself. He looks a lot more comfortable in the pocket, knowing where he's looking, what he's supposed to do, what he's supposed to see. He's processing information better, faster, getting the ball out quickly. Davis Mills is getting the ball out quickly. I've been to 3 out of 4 of the training camps, and that's the one thing that I can say consistently. Davis Mills is getting the ball out quickly. He's much more decisive. You can see him much more comfortable, much more confident, even though he's got a new system being implemented by new offensive coordinator, Pep Hamilton, who I say is the best offensive mind this team has had. Now, catch that for a second. Better than Bill O'Brien, definitely better than Tim Kelly, definitely better than Gary Kubiak. And to me, Gary Kubiak is the only one that is even in the conversation. So I feel like Davis Mills is processing what Pep Hamilton is giving him, and Pep Hamilton is giving him that information in a way that he can understand and know what to do with it. So that's why I say he is looking very confident. Now, the bad is I don't see a big arm out of Davis Mills. I don't see him throwing the ball in tight windows. I don't see him throwing guys open. He sees the target, he hits the target, and that's good enough. And that's okay. That's okay, because if you think about teams that have won a good number of games and even gone on to win Super Bowls, haven't always had a big armed quarterback. So what he wants to be is a smart and efficient quarterback. If Davis Mills can do that, I think that this Texan team has enough on the defensive side that they can stay in games. They can be competitive in games. You won't see them getting blown out a whole lot because Lovie Smith, the same man that has brought in some stability, some calm, some peace, steadied the waters, if you will, from all of the other issues that they had going on the past season and a half. He's running the defense. And some of my colleagues have a problem with that he's running the defense. Oh, I think that's too much for him right now. He's not a first-year head coach. He's not a first-time head coach. He's not a head coach that, has been away from it for so long. He has been coaching. Forget about what you saw record-wise in Illinois. Illinois got to be a better team because of Lovie Smith. What did he do down in Tampa? Tampa was a rough situation. He should have gotten another year there, and he didn't. And again, remember, he went to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as his starting quarterback. So don't tell me Lovie Smith can't coach. We ain't in the same conversation if you're telling me that. But Lovie Smith knows enough about defense in his sleep that he can coach the defense for this team and not have to worry and be so involved on the offense or the special teams because he's got assistants that he can trust in those areas. So, and coordinators that he can trust in those areas. So that's what I'm seeing out of Lovie Smith and this Houston Texans organization. Now, I will say this. Nico Collins, wide receiver that the Texans just picked up this year, second-year wide guy out of Michigan. For the first time today, I saw him create separation. Be able to get off the defensive back, get in front of the defensive back, and have a nice ball put on him, and be able to catch it and pull it in. Now, mind you, it was on 7. But again, this is day 4 training camp. I've been out there 3 out of 4 days. In the 3 days that I've been out there, I have not seen Nico Collins be able to get that kind of separation. Got a chance to see it today. I will also say that the Texans have a huge problem behind Davis Mills. Quarterback 2, QB1 is definitely Davis Mills. Quarterback 2 right now is looking like Kyle Allen. And Kyle Allen struggled today in 7-on-7 and on full team drills. He struggled, held the ball too long, was not processing the information in front of him, not finding an open receiver. And when he did throw the ball, he checked down. It was all check downs. Almost threw a couple of picks today. If something happens to Davis Mills and he goes down and this team has to rock with Kyle Allen, I'm not sure that's going to go well for them. I wasn't a fan of Kyle Allen at A&M. I definitely wasn't a fan of Kyle Allen in Carolina. Wasn't a fan of Kyle Allen when he got the opportunity to follow his head coach to the Washington Commanders. So that's where I think this team is going to have to address their needs when it comes to this team. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing at the backup quarterback spot. I think this team could use a veteran, and I mean a true veteran quarterback, not a guy like Kyle Allen, who has been in the league. Let me see. Kyle Allen is in his 4th season. 4th season. And Allen's out of here. That's right. He left Oklahoma. Left A&M and transferred to U of H. They need a veteran backup quarterback. And mind you, I'm not saying the Texans are going to compete for anything this year. I'm not saying that they're going to compete for the AFC South or a spot in the playoffs, but you still have to have a serviceable backup quarterback. And I'm not sure if Kyle Allen is that. Behind him, Jeff Driscoll, guy who converted over to tight end. Again, trouble. And then they just recently let go of a quarterback. So, again, we'll see what happens with the Houston Texans and where they go. They obviously got to bring in another quarterback to try and help this team along. So, all right, let me take a break. We'll come back. And again, it's a fast break edition. I want to pay tribute to Bill Russell before this show is over. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. I want to pay tribute to Bill Russell. In fact, I've got a tribute that I've been given the opportunity to use. I'll play that before the show is over, but we'll be right back. right here on the lunch break, fast break edition of Talk Your Team Tuesday, powered by JM&E and streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV. If you got a Roku streaming device, download BS3 TV and check out all of the great content. You will be glad you did. We'll be right back right after this on the lunch break.
This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and say face.
What brings a smile to my face is the one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations.
All right, y'all, back here on the lunch break, powered by JM&E and streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3. All right, so let's go ahead and get to it. Deshaun Watson, we found out yesterday, was going to be suspended for 6 games, 6 regular season games, not preseason games, and then 4 or 3 or 4 regular season games, but 6 regular season games. That was ruled on by the arbitrator, Judge Susan L. Robinson. Now, she, for those who don't know, was put in place by the league and in negotiation with the NFL Players Association that she would be the arbiter for any violations of the code of conduct policy in the NFL. And the way it works is she listens to the evidence, she asks questions, she listens to testimony, she reviews testimony given in court cases and from police reports and all available information. She is the one that gets all that first, and then she actually has a hearing from witnesses, from plaintiffs, and then from the defendant, in this case, Deshaun Watson. And then she takes her time and took her time to weigh all that testimony, evidence, precedents, previous cases. And she came back with a ruling of 6 games. Now, she made several comments in her dissent about the case. She said several things were egregious on Deshaun's part. She said he did not show any remorse. She said a number of things. But within the guidelines and the time frame and the precedence that was given her, she made a decision. She did not create her own precedent. She did not create her own punishment. She didn't do any of that. She used the guidelines that were given to her, being brought in by the NFL to be that person, NFL and Players Association. 6 games. The NFL and the NFL Players Association have until Thursday, 8 o'clock Central Time, to appeal that suspension on the NFL side to say that it should be longer, on the Players Association side to say it should be shorter. We're waiting. We're waiting now to see what both sides will do. The NFL Players Association used a chess maneuver where they moved one of their pieces before the NFL could move and said, hey, we accept the ruling given by Susan L. Robinson, the arbitrator, and we will not appeal it, provided the NFL does not appeal it. For all you chess players, they said check. Now, the NFL has got to make a move to protect themselves. They've got to move to protect themselves. And the question is, without all emotions, without all the not supporting women, without any of that, the question is, does the NFL go against the arbitrator that they negotiated in this past collective bargaining agreement to be the first line of arbitration in violations of the personal code of conduct policy? Do they immediately, on the first time out, go against it and say, oh no, she's too soft? In my opinion, if they do that, the whole process is already broken. When they put her in place, They gave her this authority. They gave her the guidelines. They set the precedents. The players didn't. Deshaun definitely didn't. His legal team didn't. They set the precedents. The NFL, the arbitrator, and the Players Association. So if they instantly, week one, or first time out, decide that, oh, no, it ain't working. It's broke. She was too lenient. Here's what we are going to implement. And Roger Goodell be the very thing that they were trying to move him out of the position to be, the judge, the jury, and the executioner. I think it's a bad precedent. Again, I'm not talking about what it means to the women. I'm not talking about what it means to domestic violence and sexual assault and such sexual misconduct. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the legalese controlling the NFL. I think what you're going to see happen is the NFL is going to release a statement. Well, they'll say, while they're not happy with the ruling, they accept it because she followed all of their given guidelines. And they want to trust the process, something along that lines. I think that's what you're going to hear from the NFL between now and Thursday morning. Again, got a day and a half, all day, rest of today, all day on Wednesday, and then Thursday morning, you should hear something about this. But as far as everyone else goes, just going off on Deshaun and he must be guilty because he settled now 23 out of 24 cases. All but one case has settled. That's not how the legal system works. I have worked in a position where I was, in essence, a negotiator with a client that felt like my company, our company, I didn't own it. I was an employee of it. Our company had wronged them. And I negotiated a settlement because we had legally filed pricing called tariffs. Because we had legally filed prices, we didn't want to suffer a loss against our tariffs. So whenever there was a dispute, I negotiated with them to find a resolution, a settlement. And it was standard and has been standard in legalese since the beginning of time, that a settlement does not admit guilt, does not mean guilty. It just means you felt this, we felt this. Here's what we agree on. Because we agree on it, we'll sign off on that and we will not discuss it again. It doesn't mean he's covering up evidence of guilt. It doesn't mean that they're covering up evidence that they lied. Neither side is admitting any guilt. All sides are admitting that we just want this to go away. We want to settle this. You reach an amount, you agree to it, you sign off on it, and the numbers are very rarely ever discussed. But I think there's some people that are so emotional about this on both sides that there's an extreme on this side, oh, he must be guilty. And then there's extreme, oh, he's totally innocent. Both can be true. One or the other can be true, and neither can be true. It's the way our justice system works. Again, I'm not talking about the grand juries. I'm not talking about, criminal versus civil. I'm just talking about the settlement piece of it. 23 of these ladies have decided, just let's settle. Let's agree on this. Let's not discuss it again. You don't say what you want to say about me. I won't say what I want to say about you. We'll just settle and we'll go on with our lives. If they're willing to do that, some of us got to be willing to do it. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean we don't champion the cause for sexual assault and sexual misconduct and sexual harassment. That doesn't mean we don't champion the cause. In fact, hearing what I heard throughout the levity and the longevity of this case, it sounds like there needs to be more work on the grand jury side. It sounds like there need to be more work on the prosecutor side. Sounds like, laws need to be enacted. Sounds like that's where the heavy lifting needs to be done. Because one minute I hear, you can indict a ham sandwich, if you argue it right. Then I hear, well, it's hard to get an indictment on sexual assault and domestic this and what. If that's the case, then which one is it? Either it's easy to do or it's hard to do. And if it's hard to do, how do you make it easier for people who have been sexually assaulted, who have suffered from sexual misconduct, how is it that we don't make it easier for them to get justice? I think that's the bigger picture. I'm not exonerating Deshaun. I'm not saying for the women to go on. I'm saying that you can do multiple things at one time, but you got to work on that part of it. And then, of course, there are people who don't want him to ever play a down of football in his life. So be it. I'm not here to argue that or what. All I'm saying is that the processes, legal and available, have been followed by all sides. By all sides. And here we are. Now we know at least 6 games. The defense side is saying that they're not going to appeal the ruling if the NFL doesn't appeal the ruling. They've got until Thursday morning to decide. We'll see. All right. One more break, and I'm going to wrap it up right after this on the lunch break, powered by JM&E and streaming live on Roku, courtesy of BS3 TV. We'll be right back right after this.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
All right, y'all, we're back here on the lunch break. Talk Your Team Tuesday, powered by JM&E, broadcasting live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV. Download BS3 TV on your Roku streaming device. You will be glad you did. All right, I'm live at Texans training camp. I'm in the media room, got my green screen up behind me. In fact, Kim Y. Davis and I will be doing a live show out on the practice field one day this week. So be looking for that broadcast. But again, been out at training camp today. I'll be out tomorrow, and then they're off on Thursday, and then I'll be back out there on Friday. So listen, I'm getting ready to wrap up. Astros lost last night to the Boston Red Sox. Trade deadline in Major League Baseball is today. So we'll see if there are any blockbuster trades. Let me go to my deal real quick and see if there are any blockbuster trades. Yeah, here we go. Padres have gotten the most coveted player out there in Major League Baseball. They got Juan Soto from the Washington Nationals. So there you go. That has been the deal. Padres got Juan Soto, and now they will be trying to make a push to catch the LA Dodgers. The LA Dodgers in first place in the National League West, with the Padres making a big deal to get Juan Soto. All right, let's see. They got until 5 o'clock Central to make all moves. And the San Diego Padres making the move that they need to make to try and get to the top of the National League. All right, done. Let me get ready to wrap it up. I told you it's a fast break edition because I'm in this room. Other people are trying to do other things, and I'm broadcasting. So let me pay tribute to my belief is the greatest of all time. And I don't just say that in basketball. I say that in every sport. Nobody has more rings or championships from their sport than Bill Russell, and nobody did it in the amount of time that he did. In fact, there's a story that Michael Jordan said, "Hey, we're coming for your record." He's like, "Which one?" He's like, "Which one?" I won 11 championships. You ain't getting that. And we won 8 in a row. You ain't getting that. If you want to talk about, most dynamic player, most talented player, yeah, you can talk Michael Jordan. You can talk LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, several names that you can give. but greatest of all time, most decorated in any sport, Bill Russell. Not only was he that, but he was an advocate for social justice and equality for Black people, unlike other people. I won't call anybody else's name. He was on the front line. He was an advocate. He boycotted. He was there when Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. So courtesy of CBS Mornings, I want to appreciate them for giving me the opportunity to play their clip on their remembering Bill Russell. Y'all take care. Be back tomorrow for Winning Wednesday. As always, let's not be divided. Let's be united. I truly do love you, and there is nothing you can do about it. Take care.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. We are remembering the life and career of NBA Hall of Famer Bill Russell. The Boston Celtics legend died peacefully yesterday. He was 88 years old. Russell won 11 NBA championships and 5 MVP awards. And let's not forget, he was also the NBA's first Black head coach. He was not only a champion on the court, but also a champion of civil rights, marching with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s. We spoke with Russell late last year in one of his last and final TV interviews.
Basketball hadn't seen anything like Bill Russell before. When Russell jumped, Russell soared. The kid from Monroe, Louisiana, who nobody wanted on their team because of the color of his skin, he redefined what the sport could be and eventually ended up being the teammate no one could play without.
Bill, this must have been a great win for you. Exactly.
Russell catapulted the Celtics and the city of Boston skyward in the 1950s and 60s, winning titles and breaking barriers at a time when keeping your dignity as a Black man in America was easier said than done.
So we're sitting here in Boston at the Garden. You helped bring glory here, 11 championships here. What does it feel like to be here on this court?
I never was comfortable playing for the Celtics because the #1 paper was the Boston Herald, and they didn't like the idea of the NBA team having Black players.
You brought championships here in a time when it was hard to be a Black man. Was it difficult to be celebrated on the court, but then off of it, not treated equal?
First of all, was never separated on the court. When I got there, the star was Bob Cousy.
Watch Boston's Bob Cousy.
No matter what I did.
Bill Russell, another Celtic, taps it in.
I remember I had a game where I had 25 points, 25 rebounds, 10 blocks, and the Boston Herald said I was lucky I got to play with Cousy.
I'm not a basketball player. I am a man who plays basketball. Bill Russell, the man, is someone who stood up for the rights and dignity of all men.
Bill Russell wasn't just an icon for basketball fans to rally behind on the floor of the Boston Garden on any given night.
9 top Negro athletes meet with Cassius Clay.
He was an icon for Black America, using his profile to highlight racism and inequality. Here with Muhammad Ali and other top Black athletes in 1967, backing Ali's decision refusing the Vietnam War draft. At the march alongside Dr. King in Washington.
Do you remember in Kentucky where you and your teammates set out because they refused service at a restaurant?
Yeah.
At that time, why did you feel like it was important to do that?
Well, things are part of our preparations for the game. The team would have dinner together, and I had a couple of teammates from Kentucky, and they were going to have a separate pregame meal. So I told the coach, I'm not going to play tonight. He said, why not? I said, because of that.
Later that month, this letter found its way to Russell's mailbox. It was from Jackie Robinson, who broke Major League Baseball's color barrier more than a decade earlier, thanking Russell for boycotting the game in Kentucky.
Jackie was much more to him than most people knew. They just knew he was the first Black player in the major leagues. I mean, it was good, okay? But they didn't know he was probably the most intelligent baseball player in baseball.
Wow.
And Jackie would not take anything off anybody.
I tried to get as many as him. I couldn't get there.
Which championship was the most special to you? Was it the first one or was it the last one?
The first year I was player coach and we won the championship.
First black coach in the NBA. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you won as a player and a coach.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand something. My motivation was to make myself acceptable to my folks. I never felt like I was making a contribution. I was just doing the best I could.
Former President Obama paid tribute to Russell on social media. He wrote, "As tall as Bill Russell stood, his legacy rises far higher, both as a player and a person. Perhaps more than anyone else, Bill knew what it took to win and what it took to lead. On the court, he was the greatest champion in basketball history. Off of it, he was a civil rights trailblazer." Those are perfectly put words by former President Obama. You know, he's such a legend. Yeah. He accomplished so much on the court, but that pales in comparison to who he was off of it.
Right. And when, at the time, when players like Bill Russell had a lot more to lose, it's much easier now, I would argue, in 2022.
Agreed.
Than it was back when Bill Russell and Jackie Robinson and Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were playing. And Michael Jordan himself released a statement when he set an example for every black player that came into the league, including me, Michael Jordan's
And not just the players. I look at this table right now and I think if not for people like Bill Russell, you know, there was a time we're putting 3 African Americans on television, national television, on a morning show. Just
You're right about
wouldn't
that.
be talking about it.
And I have to say this, and I'll be honest. When these young players come in the league and they're blessed with everything, they're making millions, they're praised for what they do in their sport, and they refuse to use their voice and their platform for what's right, I think it's quite cowardly. Because you had men and women doing it in a time where it was tough because of sometimes their life was at risk.
Right.
Just because they stood up for what they believed in. So a lot of young players, they should look at individuals like Bill Russell. He will be remembered, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show as well.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. Today is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. In less than 100 days, midterm elections will be held across the country. Contests will be decided for offices in states from the U.S. Senate to the U.S. House to state governors and legislative positions on down the ballot. On the federal level, the bottom line is control of the House and the Senate. The major party in the House and Senate will dictate President Biden's success or failure for the remainder of this term. In the meantime, primary elections will take place Tuesday in Arizona, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington State. Are you registered to vote? Number 2. The Justice Department opened an investigation against the city of Houston, Texas, to determine whether complaints of illegal dumping in predominantly black and Latino neighborhoods amount to civil rights violations. Houston lacks zoning laws and has thereby enabled environmental racism. 80% of the city's owned landfills and incinerators populate predominantly black or Latino neighborhoods. The northeast Houston area in question has suffered for years from the dumping of dead bodies, animals, medical waste, mattresses, and other trash that pose health and quality of life risk into Houston's super neighborhood 48. Number 3, moves by rich countries to buy large quantities of monkeypox vaccine while declining to share doses with Africa could leave millions of people unprotected against a more dangerous version of the disease. Critics fear a repeat of the catastrophic inequity problem seen during the coronavirus pandemic. Scientists say, unlike campaigns to stop COVID-19, mass vaccinations against monkeypox won't be necessary. Number 4, one employee in Texas of the Dillard's department store woke up on the unemployment line after being fired for calling a black man the N-word. The black man, who has not been identified, was shopping with his 10-year-old son in the Dallas department store and was overheard being called the racial slur. In video that's gone viral, the Dillard's employee, who was referred to as Homer in the video, looks on in bewilderment as the black man calmly reprimands him for his racist remarks. Number 5, have you procrastinated about setting up a tax advantage retirement plan for your small business? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. Consider setting up a plan to position yourself for future tax savings. Read more about it in today's newsletter, brought to you by Texas CPA Katrina M. Kraft. Here's your daily inspiration from Yogi's Jewels. Showing grace is needed most in the midst of turmoil. Join me today live on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, with comedian Damon Williams and political contributor Cameron Riley, as we discuss today's top headlines and more. Thank you to our What You Need to Know partners, the American Heart Association and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. To subscribe to my free daily newsletter, please visit SibylWilkes.com. Be informed, be empowered.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.